Tonight in the Conspiracy Zone. On July 3rd, 1971, Jim Morrison allegedly died in Paris. Some say he faked his death. Others say he was killed by the CIA. On December 8, 1980, John Lennon was murdered. Some say he was the victim of a lone gunman. Others say he was yet another rock star silenced by conspiracy.
Do you think there's a right-wing conspiracy to kill rock stars and make it look accidental?
Yeah, maybe they were making waves and the government
Think so?
maybe...
I don't know.
I think there's a right-wing conspiracy to kill rock stars and make it look on purpose.
Do you think Jim Morrison faked his own death?
I do. I think he's living in Montana somewhere.
I think he's pretty dead.
Yes.
You don't even know who Jim Morrison is.
Who the hell is Jim Morrison?
What would you do if I told you he was one of the Milli Vanilli characters?
I'd say he's cool.
Why haven't we heard this before? You expect people to believe that? Who could mastermind that kind of cover-up? Okay, you break it up. Oh, so you're serious. Come on, convince me.
You're in the Conspiracy Zone, where the truth comes in from the cold. And now here's your host, Kevin Nealon.
Well, we have got a really great program tonight. In fact, I'm so psyched I trashed my hotel room before the show. That's how crazy I am. Oh, I'm just crazy about this show. Some people say there is a conspiracy behind the deaths of Jim Morrison and John Lennon. Tonight, we're going to tackle that question, and I really want to know what happened because I'm a huge music fan. In fact, I was a big fan of Tupac Shakur. Wait, I'm sorry. Tupac Shakur, that's a Jewish holiday, isn't it? Tupac Shakur, or am I thinking of something else? I don't know. Anyway, the point is, I don't understand what happened to Jim Morrison and John Lennon, and I know they aren't Jewish holidays, but both carried around more drugs than a pharmaceutical sales rep. But how do you explain their deaths when Keith Richards is still alive and breathing? To discuss all this, we have a band of well-traveled souls from the world of rock and roll, so give it up for our panel. He's an investigative journalist and the author of The Covert War Against Rock. Pound your feet for Alex Constantine. So, Alex, you say the government's been after big rock stars for the last 30 years or so?
Right. On April 26, 1976, the Frank Church's Select Committee on Intelligence released a report that contained the smoking gun, and that was a set of directives to intelligence agents in the field to set up situations that would result in the deaths of politically active rock musicians.
So all killed by the government?
Exactly.
That's a shame. All right. Our next guest is a founding member of The Doors, and he's the author of the new book, The Poet in Exile. It's an honor to have him. Hold up your lighters for Ray Manzarek.
Thank you, Kevin.
Ray, what are your thoughts?
Well, conspiracies, Kevin, there are conspiracies and there are conspiracies. Some are on the grand level, some are national, but there are other kinds, little personal conspiracies.
Oh, like what?
Well, a friend and a couple of other friends, perhaps plotting something a long time ago in Paris, but we'll talk about that later.
All right, and on lead vocals, a member of Monty Python, and more importantly, the creator of the mythical British rock band, The Ruttles. Storm the stage for Eric Idle. Eric, do these guys sound a little off-key here, or what?
Well, conspiracy theorists believe that the world is well organized, and I believe that, on the contrary, chaos rules, and that the principle of screw-up is prevalent. I believe the CIA and FBI couldn't organize a children's party in a deli, as recent events have tragically shown. To hush up a conspiracy, I believe, is even more difficult. I mean, your last president couldn't even get a job without the entire world knowing about it. I also think that rock stars aren't really a threat to anybody. I mean, they're largely egotistical, drug-taking, selfish bastards concerned only with getting laid and selling records. And that in the natural course of events, they become outdated faster than Microsoft operating systems. What they're usually saying is that I'm so lonely, I need a shit. Nobody understands me because I take heroin all the time. Why are you all looking at me just because I'm dressed in tight pants with fake fur and orange hair? I think the real danger here is intelligence, which most conspiracy theorists actually insult.
Wow. Wow, there you have it. Alex, he said so much right there. What do you think about that?
Let's look at it this way. Can the CIA accomplish these things? Well, of course they can. They train death squads around the world.
But they're not very good death squads since they miss most of the people they're trying to kill.
They're incompetent death squads. Well, if you can't do anything else, you join a death squad.
Ray, he said some pretty devastating things about rock stars.
Exactly. Let me get on to this. What rock stars on, what are they on, heroin? Wait a minute.
Ray's not on
aren't
heroin.
we talking about, Ray's not on heroin. No one I know is on heroin. Aren't we talking about John Lennon, Jim Morrison, perhaps Janis Joplin?
Yeah.
These are psychedelic. Eric, this is a whole nother, this is
Lennon was
consciousness.
on heroin.
Okay, he might have tried it, but first
Tried
it was
it, they were
consciousness
addicts. They had to
expansion.
go, what is
Consciousness
cold
expansion.
turkey is about getting off it.
You will talk, I'll let you talk.
Okay.
Consciousness expansion. That's why they were offed. If they were offed at all, which I tend to doubt, they had taken, the 60s had taken consciousness beyond the pale. We had gone to another realm of existence in which all men are created equal. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We are all one.
I think the only thing we learned about the 60s was that in order to listen to the music, you had to take drugs.
No, you didn't. No, not in the least. Not in the least. It's completely valid. What we did is completely valid, high or straight, sober or stoned. It doesn't have anything to do with drugs.
But you think it threatens...
Opening the doors of perception.
Aldous Huxley, that's not rock and roll.
Well,
Well, that's the doors, for one.
This little conspiracy
Get back to
here.
the issue of competence here. In the 1960s, the CIA managed to do surveillance on some 300,000 organizations. They compiled an enemies list of subversives that included some 7 million names. They managed, since the 1960s, to totally discredit the 60s and some of the figures at the time, and some of the revolutionary concepts that arose in the 1960s. Now, in the 60s, you had on campuses from C to psychedelic C, you had students opposing fascism, burning Nixon in effigy and so forth. And this is the first time the country actually stood up against the people in power, and that's why they were knocked back down.
Stop this war.
So those people had to be
Stop
stopped. Those people had to be stopped that were causing that.
And drugs was one of the weapons to accomplish that end. The LSD came from the CIA.
They didn't give us LSD. I mean, I bought LSD down in Venice from local guys, you know. They don't want, the last thing in the world they want you to do is take LSD.
It's interesting.
All right, we're going to find out where Ray got his LSD when we come back from this break. We'll take a quick break here, open up the stage door, and let the groupies in, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Conspiracy Zone. Are there conspiracies behind the deaths of some big rock stars? Ray, the plot of your new novel, The Poet in Exile.
Poet in Exile.
It could be kind of about Jim.
It's about a rock star poet who stages his own death in Paris and how, in fact, he pulls it off. And then what happens to him in the ensuing 30 years that bring us up to the present time.
I faked my own death last week.
I was going to say, I was surprised to see you.
Yeah, no, that's a bit of a... I couldn't keep it up.
Yeah.
You know.
How did you do it?
I got outed by the National Enquirer, who recognised me in Gelsons.
There he is.
How did you fake your death?
I stayed in the bathtub for 20 minutes.
For 20 minutes?
Yes, I did, yes.
And that's
Well,
abnormal
it's longer
for you.
than I normally stay, you know.
Usually just dip the toe in and get out.
That's it, yeah. Because
Right.
we don't have hot water.
Right.
See, the thing with Morrison in Paris is that no one ever saw the body. There's a grave and there's a coffin in Père Lachaise cemetery. It's Jim's site. It's the #4 tourist attraction in Paris. The Eiffel Tower, the Mona Lisa, the
London
Beaubourg,
Bridge.
the Pompidou,
Or is that
the
in
London Bridge.
That's in England, sorry.
Right, and then Jim Morrison is the #4 tourist attraction.
Right.
No one saw that body. A sealed coffin was put in the ground, and that's where all the rumors have
The
come
coroner didn't even see him?
The French, there's a conspiracy. Here's the conspiracy. There's
The French are a
rumor
conspiracy,
that
really.
and they love it.
They even have their own language, you know.
They do. Yeah. They don't speak what we're talking?
No.
So,
the
Ray, you
damn
really
fools.
believe that Jim Morrison is alive? So.
Well, I'm not, I cannot say at this particular time.
But Alex, on the other hand, can say.
Well,
And he is
I don't
dead.
say
Or
definitively
he's
that
alive.
he was murdered. What I do say is that it's possible he was given a hot shot. I also say that on several occasions, French intelligence attempted to murder Jim Morrison.
Why?
Why? Because I think he was #1 on the hit list, because he was an outspoken advocate of anarchy. He was outspoken against the government. And I think those statements made him a target.
But that is the very nature of Frenchness, isn't it?
Well, the French intelligence, I believe, were operating on behalf of the CIA.
The French intelligence, wait. The French intelligence were working for the CIA?
They attempted
even
to
with
kill
the CIA?
They attempted to
Avec?
kill Jim Morrison. Well, this was...
You see,
I know what
that
you're saying.
is the Frenchicity of it all. That's what they do.
They're so devious. Nobody would expect them to do anything in favor of the Americans.
There was a contingent within French intelligence that would cooperate with the CIA.
Sure. Do they have
and
a
they called them the Murder Committee.
Oh, the Murder Committee. And is it just rock stars they kill?
Normally, no. They also made war on Greenpeace.
They rigged the jet.
Yeah.
In 1960.
It makes so much sense in that Morrison, Joplin, and Hendricks all died at the age of 27 within 1 year.
That's interesting. Also the date, July 3rd.
It's interesting that they're all humans as well.
And not anymore.
My point is that French intelligence attempted to commit him, so why aren't they put on trial for attempted murder? If you do that kind of thing in this country, you go to prison for that.
Ray, do you ever feel the government's looking over your shoulder?
No. No, I'm not the lead singer. You know, I'm the keyboard player. The keyboard player is always safe. We never get busted. Jim gets busted in Miami, take him to jail. Meanwhile, I'm playing and just playing chaos and a riot.
There was a French film called Shoot the Pianist, you know.
Yes, there was. And they didn't.
They missed.
Yeah,
well,
he got away with
Eric, if the government-run BBC, if they wanted to silence, like, Python players, how would they do it?
They'd probably give us a show.
Really?
I think you might notice there are no ministries of silly walks anymore.
Yeah.
That is true.
They have got rid of it.
That is true.
That's thanks to our deep-hitting, all-pervasive satire.
Right.
They said we can no longer have this ministry anymore.
Well, what would Jim be doing now if he were alive? He'd be writing songs or poems?
Well, he'd be a poet, which is what he was in the first place. That's why we put the band together. He was a poet.
How old would he be?
He'd be about 56, 57 years of age, and he'd be a poet. We'd be perhaps making a film, perhaps touring once every 2 or 3 years. We certainly wouldn't work as hard as we did. And we'd be all relaxed and living on little tropical islands and somewhere up in Napa.
You're pretty much saying he's dead then.
Well, I wish I had seen him more often in the last 25 years. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Well, you think he'll ever come out of retirement?
Not now. Not with the way the world is. No. He's not coming out now.
Well, Alex, you think he'll ever pop up again since he's alive?
I don't think so. I really don't believe that he's alive. I think the CIA, I've looked into this, has left a trail of paper to make it seem as if he's alive, and that's to set up a false dialectic, it's called, to get you asking the wrong question. The question should not be, is he alive, but who killed him? Who slipped him a hot shot? This whole situation came about because of a biography by Danny Sugarman, right? He did a whole chapter suggesting that Jim Morrison was alive. Danny Sugarman is married to Fawn Hall, which takes you right back to the national security establishment.
Lucky bastard, eh?
Oh, she's gorgeous. How Danny got her, I have no idea.
Are you telling me that Fawn Hall is alive?
Fawn Hall is alive as well.
After all that cocaine,
I learned so much on this show. All right, we got to take a break.
North, however, is...
we don't know where he is. Okay, when we come back, testimony from John Lennon about his father's murder. But first, we're going to take a break, or take a lunch, or take after our parents. In any case, we'll be back. We're back, and right now we're going to count down the top 40 songs of 1977. Number 1, Muskrat Love. Number 2, Jive Talkin'. I'm sorry, that's a different show. We're discussing, here we are discussing the late, great rock stars. Gentlemen, I have a 1998 quote from the New Yorker. It's from John Lennon, and it reads, "Anybody who thinks that Mark Chapman was just some crazy guy who killed my dad for his personal interests is insane, or very naive, or hasn't thought about it clearly. It was in the best interests of the United States to have my dad killed, definitely." Why would Lennon be a threat?
He advocated freedom. It's like what Morrison advocated. It's what the 60s were all about, freedom.
Right, right. But a lot of people represented freedom, and not everybody was rubbed out. Who did they miss?
Who did they miss?
Yeah, who were they going to get?
Well, I was wondering about Neil Young. They never got him.
Yeah, they should have got him.
But yeah, they got a number of people, all for the same reason, because of their political statements.
Yeah.
And we've had to revise, our understanding of the deaths of many of these people. Brian Jones, his killer confessed on his deathbed. We know that now it's known since 1997 that Jimi Hendrix drowned. Right, there was great quantities of red wine came gushing out of his stomach and his lungs. He was held down and forced
That's making me
to
very
take a
thirsty.
gallon of wine. But you may note that the media misrepresents these cases. It's claimed that Brian Jones died by misadventure and that Jimi Hendrix choked on his own vomit. That wasn't the case.
No, no. We're going to get to the bottom of that soon. Eric, you're kind of chummy with George Harrison, right? Do you think there's a conspiracy to kill John Lennon?
Well, actually, though, George was nearly killed by a loony last year. He was stabbed 8 times in the chest and was that close to being dead. This guy is now a lunatic. He's called Abrams, and case just was up again in the newspapers where he was, you know, wasn't supposed to be released from the institution in which he was kept. Tragically, he was released, and he almost killed George. But George said to me, when he had just been stabbed, I was on the phone to him like 2 days later, and he said, "Why doesn't this sort of thing happen to the Rolling Stones?" So it shows you that humor is triumphant and that conspiracies are much harder to work than you'd expect.
Did he ever mention anything about maybe John Lennon being killed by the government?
I don't think it's necessary to go that far. I mean, there are plenty of loonies in America, I'm sadly to say, you know, who are walking around with guns. I mean, you've got people with psychotics on medication who should be institutionalized.
Yeah, Alex, why couldn't it just been a loony?
Why couldn't it have been a loony?
Yeah. Haven't there ever been a loony out there that killed somebody without any kind of connection?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say it did happen to the Rolling Stones. The Hells Angels attempted twice to kill the Rolling Stones. As for the loony, Mark David Chapman wasn't exactly a loony. He was a very bright kid. He went through a personality change in 1977 and became a different sort of person. He
became a loony person.
He became what you would call a loony person. He had command hallucinations. That is, he heard voices commanding him to kill. That can be done hypnotically.
Now, wasn't Chapman killing him because he was the devil? That the devil was in John Lennon, or John Lennon was the devil?
That's what the guy said who went into George's. He said, "You are the devil."
To you?
No, to George Harrison. That's
that
what he
guy
said.
Too?
Absolutely. This is a regular psychotic
He was
state.
killing the
devil.
Any impression that he had of John Lennon would be the result of his programming.
So then the devil is dead.
Apparently the devil's a bad thing. That's
I guess so.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm thinking with Lennon, you know, with his assassination, that kind of canonized him, right? So didn't their plan backfire?
No, I don't think so, because they've been trying to discredit John Lennon ever since.
But they haven't.
There have been a number of books, well, they have tried like hell.
But they haven't.
A number of books that made him out to be incestuous with his mother, to be, you know, consuming mass quantities of drugs, to be all sorts of things that he never was.
But people don't believe that.
Yeah, he wrote Imagine.
Right.
He wrote Imagine, and they just banned Imagine off of one of those huge radio channels.
A dangerous song, yeah.
A dangerous song, Imagine.
Yeah, but they also banned World Without Love, so, you know.
Okay, when we come back, I'm going to play some serious air guitar, so don't hold your breath. On the next Conspiracy Zone, are psychics fake?
I'm skeptical.
I've been able to see the aura ever since I was 5 years old.
I think there's some realness to it.
I predict the future all the time.
Why not go to a racetrack? Watch the Conspiracy Zone Sundays at 9 p.m., 8 Central.
Do you know Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Do you get all your information from VH1 or?
Yeah, pretty much.
Can you spell Jim Morrison?
J-I-M space M-O-R-R-I-S-O-N.
Capital J and capital M. But thanks for playing along. Welcome back, everybody. I'm in the mosh pit, and we're discussing rock and roll. Ma'am, what is your name?
Bianca.
Bianca. Where are you from, Bianca?
Neptune, New Jersey.
Neptune, New Jersey. I didn't know there was a Neptune, New Jersey.
There is.
Wow. Any other planets in New Jersey?
Not that I know of.
No. Okay. You have a question for our panel?
Yeah, I think Alex, she smoked a lot of pot. I'm sorry, but I think that, you know, some rock stars just die. They do drugs, they party, they die. I love you, Eric. Always look on the bright side of life.
Well, did Tupac Shakur just die?
No, I'm talking about who you brought up on the show. In regards to Jim Morrison and what you talked about on the show, it's like facts. Do you have any
As I
proofs?
said, there was no autopsy done on Jim Morrison. I can't say that he was murdered or that he faked his own death.
And John Lennon, do you have any proof?
John Lennon, I have a lot of evidence, and I would like that evidence to be examined, but nobody seems to care about that.
Where can he send the proof to?
Oh, to me? To anybody else?
All right. Be expecting some proof in the mail.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I do believe he was murdered.
Okay.
I believe I can prove it.
Okay, what is your name?
Cindy.
Cindy.
Yes.
And where are you from, Cindy?
I'm from Oceanside.
Oceanside.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a question for our panel?
Yes, I do. I was wondering, do you think that maybe one of your counterparts was actually conspiracy theory
Graham
killed?
Chapman was removed, actually, yes. I think that, well,
Grant Chapman from Monty Python.
Yeah, it depends how much you think cancer is a conspiracy. You know, I'm sure they'll have a program on it soon.
Well, it just kind of, you know, ties in with the Jim Morrison.
I think so. I think people who are conspiracy theorists will see conspiracies everywhere. I think it's very much what you take in there. I think it depends on your own personal paranoia and on what you feel. And if you don't feel that, then you won't see that.
Before the roadies load us onto the bus, here's a final thought. The capitalized letter I signifies the Roman numeral 1. Jim Morrison died 1 year after Jimi Hendrix. Hendrix died 1 year before Morrison. If you take the letter I away from Jimmy, you get Jim. If you add the letter I to Jim, you get Jimmy. Both Hendrix and Morrison use the letter I to refer to themselves in the first person. Coincidence or conspiracy?
Too heavy, man. Too heavy.
Well, that's it for another Conspiracy Zone. As always, if we made just one person a little paranoid, we've done our job. See you next week when we will tackle the question, who are you? Who? I'd like to thank our panelists, Alex Constantine, Ray Manzarek, and Eric Idle. I'm Kevin Nealon. Stop bootlegging this show. Good night.
The statements, opinions, and theories expressed on the Conspiracy Zone do not necessarily reflect those of TNN, our sponsors, or the people who forced us to read this.
Show me your best air guitar impression.